Hello class. So today we will discuss regarding quality control, the process of quality control, the monitoring of IQC, which are very important for a perfect functioning of each and every laboratory. Now, what is quality control? It is a process or system for monitoring the quality of laboratory testing and the accuracy and precision of result. A system, what does that system do? It monitors the quality of laboratory testing. And how it do? By checking for the accuracy and precision of the result. Now, a very common thing that is used in a laboratory is calibrator. So, so we should know what is calibrator. Suppose you are going to incorporate a new test in your laboratory, or there is a change of lot of reagent in your laboratory, or there is a violation of internal quality control data in your laboratory. So you need to calibrate it. So then you comes the role of a calibrator. So what is calibrator? It is a substance with known concentration of analyte. As you can see in your laboratory, they uses the calibrator for automated analyzer system, that is CFAS. They have the known concentration of analyte for glucose. One value of glucose is there given by hexokinase method, one value for urea by GLDH method is given. And what does that calibrator to determine? That means whenever I am going to start a new testing system in our laboratory, it will determine the function of the laboratory. So check whenever I am going to change the reagent plot, it will check the whether there is any lot to lot severe change or not, and rectify the measurement accuracy of any analyzer. Whenever there is any IQC violation, I will go for measurement of the IQC by recalibrating the analyte. So this is calibration. How does it differ from standard? If you notice, calibrator and standard, they differ. How? They differ in the matrix. Calibrator has the same matrix as that of the analyte which you are going to measure. Like protein are present in the matrix of the human serum. Like calibrators are also having the same matrix, whereas standard do not have the same matrix. Now this calibrators can be used maybe 2-point calibration. What is 2-point calibration? If you see in your laboratory, whenever we are going for calibration of any analyte, we are using the standard and deionized water as black, or for some reagents we are using the reagent as the blank. So this is 2-point calibration. Multi-point calibrators, where it comes in cases of immunoassays like ELISA. Whenever we are going for setting the calibration curve, we are using the multi-point calibrators. Various calibrators are used, and then we get a curve like for TSH 0, 5, 10, 25 and 40. So 6 calibrators are used having this much concentration, and then we plot a calibrator. So what does a calibrator do? A calibrator sets the function of the machine, that if X concentration is given, you will give Y absorbance. That is, we set the calibration factor, which should be here absorbance of the, this absorbance of the standard won't be there. It would have been absorbance of blank. So absorbance of the calibrator divided by the absorbance of the blank into concentration of the. Now why I need a quality control? As I've said, it is a process and a system. So what are the steps here? It should have written policies and procedures, corrective actions for procedure, train all staff, design and forms, assure complete documentation and review. So these are the steps of quality control program. Now, fundamentals of total quality and management. These are the key factors of total quality management. Elements of a quality assurance program. This whole quality control management is nothing but it compromises of the quality assurance program. As we will go in details, we will see that every lab goes through a 5Q of the quality control program cycle. Control of the pre-analytical variables. If we divide the whole testing process, we get 3 steps: pre-analytical, analytical and post-analytical. And if you go for any lab, the pre-analytical variables are the most common sources of error. Then control of analytical variables. Control of analytical quality using stable control materials. I will discuss in detail this about the quality control materials. This quality control materials are commonly used in our laboratory for monitoring the control of analytical variables. IQC monitors the quality control of the analytical phase of the study only. Pre-analytical phase and post-analytical phase is not covered by the IQC program. Determining laboratory error. As we all know, to err is human. That means to make mistake is a common human practice. But fortunately, God has given us another quality to rectify ourselves. So if there is any laboratory error, we should have a process to determine the error of or the causes of the error and how we can rectify it. Monitoring of the patient data. We have some processes to monitor the patient data. We can see whether the patient is deteriorating, previous values, monitoring of the previous values of the same patient. This is known as delta check, and this delta check may help you to see whether the patient is responding to the treatment, whether you have made any mistake in your testing procedure, and this is very important key of total quality management. External quality assessment and proficiency testing program. External quality assessment and proficiency testing is a very important tool to monitor the accuracy of the laboratory, what we commonly say as ECAS. We should not use the term ECAS because ECAS is the brand name for the external quality assessment program offered by Biorad. We should always go for external quality assessment or best proficiency testing program. Like it goes like the synonym of Xerox or the photocopier. The technology which used to copy a paper or any document is photocopier, but and Xerox is the name of the company which is doing this uh, photocopy technique. So but what we say, we go to the shop and say Xerox. So here comes the difference between ECAS and proficiency testing. You should always say it is proficiency testing program. And lastly is the root cause analysis of potential. Now, total quality management framework or the 5Q framework. Whenever you are going to start any quality control process, you should have a planning. Means what you want to do. That is planning, quality planning given in the orange colored box circle as quality planning. Then you will go for quality management. Quality laboratory process. That is how you are going to do. So first I will plan, then I will set some processes. Then what are you going to see? I am going to see the quality control and do the quality assessment. After quality assessment, I will check for quality improvement. So this is the 5Q cycle: planning, process, control, assessment, improvement. First I will plan, then I will set a process, then when I will monitor the quality control, then I will assess, and then I will see whether I can improve further or not. So this compromises the 5Q framework of the total quality. Now, as I have said in the previous slide, that the pre-analytical variables are the notorious for the major laboratory error. Most of the laboratory error comes from the pre-analytical area. So what are those? Systems analysis, identifying potential errors, test usage and practice guideline, patient identification, turnaround time, transcription error, patient preparation, specimen collection, transport, processing. These are all chances of pre-analytical error. Patient identification, nowadays many of the lab uses barcode. So whenever I scan the barcode, I should have an idea regarding the name of the patient, the age of the patient, the gender of the patient, and what are the tests the patient have given. Turnaround time is the time which starts from the ordering of the test, on some say from the time of the collection of the specimen from the patient to the reporting of the result. So we should have a stringent turnaround time. Transcription error, suppose the patient is having uric acid 59 milligram per deciliter in the report. Is it possible 59 milligram per deciliter? No, it is not possible. It was 5.9, but due to some reason in the software you have uploaded and the patient has got to report as 59. So this is a transcription error. Patient preparation, this forms the bread and butter for the pre-analytical phase of the test. You should have a proper guideline for patient preparation. Suppose if you are going for ordering the occult blood test, so you will tell the patient to avoid which kind of food, then which kind of drugs for giving the stool for occult blood test, and then collection, transport and processing. You should have a proper guideline at what temperature in the ice box you are going to transport the sample. If the transportation time or the center where the testing will be done is very far from your collection center, then what you are going to do, you are going to process the sample. Then clerical errors, suppose the patient has ordered fasting plasma glucose and it have been incorporated by the receptionist as random plasma glucose. So the reference interval of the reporting changes, the and you may get the patient may get a result that where the patient may see that what he has ordered, the test has not been done. So these are all variables. Now the control of analytical variable, it consists of two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is the documentation of analytical protocols. A process may be documented as a flow chart or table that describes operation within the laboratory, a step-by-step instruction that individual needs to follow. That is the standard operating procedure. Suppose if you go in front of your ion selective electrode, that is the electrolyte analyzer of your laboratory, which is from the Roche AVL 9180. So you will see in front of the machine that start the switch on the machine. Then you need to give the deproteinizer, sodium electrode conditioner, and the instrument will calibrate itself. Then you have to run the quality controls. If the QC results are okay, then only you have prepared the machine for running the sample. So it should have a documented flow chart or table that describes operation within the laboratory. Or suppose you want to go for a testing procedure. So whenever the sample comes, you will put a number, you will write the number of that sample in your accession book. Then you will centrifuge the sample. Then after that, if it is devoid of all the hemolysis and it or if it is non-lipemic, then you will put the sample in your machine and you will go for the test analysis. So this is a process for analytical protocols. A laboratory manual contains table of content, process description, procedure. Suppose if we go for the SOP of any analyzer, it will have an index which will have the processes for the various analytes, test for various analyte it performs and the procedure. And this manual should be reviewed annually and revised whenever changes occur. Suppose your laboratory was previously measuring creatinine by alkaline picrate method, but now you have shifted it to its enzymatic method. So you need to review it, revise it, and you need to inform the receptionist too that if a patient comes to your uh, uh, laboratory and say that in previous report it was written creatinine alkaline picrate, now enzymatic, what is the difference? So you need to report that we have changed the method. All this regarding the changes of the analytical variables, all the person involved with the laboratory work should be reported and remain in control of analytical variables. Phase 2 is selection, evaluation, implementation and maintenance of variables. What are the variables? Water quality. That means the water which we are using in our test process, we should monitor the quality of the water. We should go for checking the conductivity of water, total amount of solutes dissolved in the water, and pH, though it is changed, but in cases of laboratory grade water, it has hardly any clinical implication. We should go for calibration by external agency for the analytical balances, centrifuges, by tachometer, then maintenance of the hygrometer, room temperature sensor, refrigerator, -20-degree freezer. We should go for calibration and maintenance at least once a year. And choice of the analytical method, which method you are going to choose for your test. Now, statistically, quality control includes both internal quality control and external quality assurance. Internal quality control mainly focuses on monitoring of a single laboratory's day-to-day activity. What does it mean? If you take the example of your laboratory, you are running quality control material from Biorad in your Cobas Integra 400 analyzer. So what are you doing? You are monitoring the quality control of your laboratory only and in the Cobas Integra only. And by this you are monitoring the day-to-day activity or daily monitoring. Why it is necessary? Here you can see in the second box, it is necessary for the monitoring of precision and accuracy. More of the precision. Accuracy mainly it is monitored by the external quality assurance program. External quality assurance procedures are used to compare the performances of the of different laboratories. External quality assurance is important in maintenance of long-term accuracy. Now, what is a control material? A control material may be a solution, lyophilized preparation, or pool of collected human or animal specimen, or artificially derived material for use in the quality control process. Laboratories purchase control material from one of the several companies that manufacture control sera or control products. Control products from human sources generally are preferred, but because of limited availability and biohazard, it is not easily available. Whereas animal sera has advantages in terms of safety and readily availability, lyophilized or freeze-dried forms are generally used that are reconstituted by addition of deionized water or specific diluent solution as recommended by the manufacturer. Now, what are the criteria of quality control material? It should be available in a stable form. Similar to the test specimen matrix, example protein matrix from serum, materials from human sources generally are preferred, but are due to limited availability and biohazards, animal materials are also used. Should be available over an extended period of time, stored in small aliquots, so that differences between repeated measurements are attributed to the analytical method alone. Now, this control material, they may be available in lyophilized form as you use in your clinical chemistry, electrolyte or the immunoanalyzer, but they may also be available in liquid form like the urine quality control materials. If you can see, your laboratory uses the urine quality control materials of Randox or the whole blood, which is used by the hematology analyzers, the cell counters. So this liquid control material have some advantages and disadvantage. What is the advantage? Liquid control materials offer the advantage of eliminating error caused by reconstitution. What does it mean? Suppose you are reconstituting the Biored clinical chemistry control by deionized water, and your pipette for every 1000 microliter it measures has an underestimation of 10 microliter, মানে 1000 মাইক্রোলিটার মাপার জন্য 990 মাইক্রোলিটার মাপে। এবার 5 ml ডিআয়োনাইজড ওয়াটার দিয়ে গুলতে হবে, তাহলে টোটাল আমি 5 ml এর জায়গায় কত নিলাম? 4950 microliter. So I have under diluted it. That means the control sera which I am getting is concentrated. This is the disadvantage of liquid control material. What are disadvantage? The matrices of those liquid material contain other materials that constitute a potential source of error with some analytical methods and instruments. Now this clinical chemistry or the hematology control may be again of two types. This may be assayed or unassayed. Assayed means we will get the target value from the value sheets of the control. Unassayed means we don't have any specified value for an. Now, how to manage a control material? Sufficient material from the same lot number or serum pool for 1 year testing. If you see in your laboratory, the quality control material they are using, they have expiry date of almost 1 year. In practice, laboratory purchase control material from one of several companies, control sera or control product. Lyophilized or freeze-dried forms require very acute reconstitution. Always stored as recommended by the manufacturer. We store it in a freezer. Whenever you reconstitute it, you put it in small aliquot, label it, you write the lot number, date of reconstitution, date of expiry. Suppose Biored level 1 28 2461 lot number. You have reconstituted it on 14th of this month. So you will write 14/5/2020 and you will write the date of expiry. Now every day you will bring one small aliquot and you will go for run. Never repeatedly thaw it and put it in the fridge. Suppose you have 500 microliter in your laboratory and you want to use that. So you have taken it, you have seen only 250 microliter of the control is used and this 250 is put there in the appendrof. So don't again put it in the freezer and use it in the next day. Repeated thawing, fridging and refridging deteriorates the quality control texture or deteriorates the quality control material. Quality control, what we use for clinical chemistry or immunoassay analyzers, we use generally 2 levels of control, normal and abnormal ranges, whereas in hematology generally 3 levels of quality control. There are general principles of control charts. Control charts are simple graphical displays. Observed values are plotted versus time when the observations are made. The control limits are calculated from the mean and standard deviations obtained from the repeated measurements. Initial estimate should be based on measurements obtained over a period of at least 1 month. error distribution of the analytical method is assumed to be a symmetrical bell-shaped Gaussian distribution. So what we will do, suppose we have purchased a control material, we will run for the various analyze like glucose, urea, creatinine, alkapos, ALT, AST, total bilirubin, dilute bilirubin for 20 days, and then we will calculate the laboratory mean and laboratory SD for each and every analyte. I have shown you the calculation process in the previous class. From that, I will plot the control number of observations or days in the x-axis or the abscissa, and in the y-axis I will have 7 lines. I will segregate in mean, having in the upper 1 SD, then above that plus 2 SD, and below minus 2 SD, and above that plus 3 SD and minus 3 SD. Clear? If we go in details in the Levy-Jennings chart. Levy-Jennings chart was first introduced by S. Levy and E. R. Jennings in the year 1950. It is used for monitoring the quality control data. It is commonly known as, so this is the example of LJ chart. If you can see here I have written the Levy-Jennings chart. The graph is shown here. So in the x-axis you will find 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all number of days or dates or observation. And in the y-axis you have the dotted line as the 1 standard deviation, above that the 2 standard deviation, and the deep black line is the 3 standard deviation, and this line is the mean. So the dotted line within the oval shaped diagram shows the 1 standard deviation. In the red rectangle, the black colored limit shows the 2 standard deviation, and in the violet color box, the deep highlighted black color line shows the 3 standard deviation. So this is a standard pictorial representation of this chart. So this Levy-Jennings chart record and evaluate the quality control values. Now, what are waste guard rules? This waste guard rules was first identified by a person known as James Westgard, and after his name it goes by the multi-rule quality control or the James Westgard rule. It uses a combination of decision criteria or control rules. The use of multi-rule procedure is similar to the use of Levy-Jennings chart, but the data interpretation is much more structured. The samples of the quality control material are analyzed by the analytical method and are made. Y20, you need to get a laboratory mean and laboratory standard deviation, for which you need minimum of 20 observations. So, where it can be applied to see whether the results from the samples when the quality control was done can be released or not, to check these rules can be applied carefully so that the true errors are detected while false rejections are minimized. The rule applied to high throughput chemistry and hematology instruments should follow low false rejection rate. That means be generous, and we should use cautious administration of the waste guard rule so that we minimize the rejection rate to less number. Now, these are the waste guard rules which are used when we run 2 levels of quality control, like 1-2S, 1-3S, 2-2S, R4S, 4-1S, 10X rule. Now, previously some opined that if a lab runs 25 sample, you should run 1 level of control once a day. If a lab runs up to 75 number of samples, then you should run 2 levels of control once a day, and more than 75, 2 levels of control once a day, and any 1 level every 8 hourly. But this is not the rule nowadays. As per National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories, what is the name for NABL? NABL says that every lab should run at least 2 levels of control once a day for each and every analyte it performs the test. Now, This is the West Guard rule. This is 1 2s. Now what does this 1 2s means? This 1 in the prefix means any one level of control, and 2s means 2 standard deviation violation. As you can see in the figure, a single dot crosses the plus 2sd line. So one level of control have crossed the 2 standard deviation, and this is the violation of 1 2s rule. Though it is a random error, but this is considered as a warning rule or alarming rule. That means if any day you find a 1 2s violation, this will give you an alarm or signal that investigate or inspect your control data, and next day QC data should be kept under strict observation. Now this is the 1 3s rule. What does this 1 3s rule suggest? This 1 3s rule suggests reject the run when a single control measurement exceeds the plus 3sd or minus 3sd control limit, and it generally indicates the random error. So here you can see the dot in the lower side, it has crossed the minus 3sd, and thus it is 1 3s violation. Whenever there is 1 3s violation, you should reject the run and you should go for estimation of you should go for rerunning of quality control. That is, you should rerun the quality control once again. Again, if it fails, then you should calibrate, and this is 2 2s rule. This 2 2s rule goes for the violation of the 2 standard deviation on 2 consecutive days. Any one level of control have crossed the 2 standard deviation on 2 successive days, and this is the violation of 2 2s rule. This is a systematic error. This is R4S. R4S happens when one control crosses the 2SD and the other exceeds the minus 2SD measurement. When one control measurement exceeds the plus 2SD and the other measurement exceeds the minus 2SD, this is a random error. This exceeds the R4S. This may happen in the same run when you are running 2 level of control once a day. Any one level is plus 2SD and the second level is minus 2SD, or vice versa. Or this may happen in 2 consecutive run when you are running any one level of control. First day it was plus 2SD, next day it was minus 2SD. So this is R4. WestGuard 41S rule. This requires data from previous run. When 4 consecutive QC results have rejected the or have crossed the plus 1SD or minus 1SD. This is a systematic error. Whenever you get this, we should stop reporting. You should go for rejection of the run and calibrate and rerunning of the quality control material. This is violation of 4 2s 4. Then coming to the 10x rule. 10x rule means the violation of reject the run when the 10 consecutive control materials fall on one side of the mean. It indicates a systematic error. When 10 consecutive measurements fall on one side of the mean, it indicates a systematic uh, error. 10x. The figure here, it is showing you the violation of 10. So these are the WestGuard multiple QC rule, where you can see only the 1 2s comes as the warning rule or alarming rule. Rest of them come as the reject. So why 1-2s is used as an alarming rule? There is a false alarm problem with a 1-2s rule. When n by 2 it is expected, then n% of good runs will be falsely rejected. With n equal to 3, it is even higher, about 14% with n equal to 4, means where n means number of controlled materials you are running. 2 levels, n equal to 3 means 3 levels, n equal to 4 means 4. So if we take this as a rejection rule, we are rejecting false good runs. Means it was a good run, and we know this quality control material are very costly, and each and every run consumes a huge amount of reagent, then money, time and effort in the laboratory. So it is not effectively efficient to reject 1-2s. So it is used as an alarming rule. You need to identify the uh, any error is in the QC pattern or trend analysis of the QC you have to do, and this is used as a warning rule. Next day quality control data is kept under strict observation. So these are the types of error. This is 1-2s, 2-2s. These are all different types of error. And in the last column, I have given the corrective action for the different types of error. So when a rule is violated or out of control, you have to identify and correct the problem. Do not report patient's result until problem is done. That is why it mandates that we should run the QC material first and not in the same batch with the patient sample. First QC run kollam. If the QC is okay, then we will go for the patient sample run, and then we can report a good and a quality. So what are the different types of error in the laboratory? This are what is error? That means difference between a single estimate of a quantity and its true value. Laboratory error, that is the total error, that may be systemic error or random error. Systemic error, that is always in one direction. Random error, it may be either positive or negative, the direction and exact magnitude of which cannot be predicted. Constant systemic error is constantly low or high by the same error, and proportional systemic error if the error is consistently low or high by an amount proportion to the concentration. If you look the graph here, if we go for an calibration, then this lower line should be the ideal calibration, y equal to mx, where m is the slope. It should be 1045 degree, which should be 1. But ideally it is not. It is y equal to mx plus c. And this m has some value. It is seen by here. So constant error, this is due to this m value. And proportional error means, if you can see this calibration line, more it goes on the upper side, more the deviation is. This deviation increases, more it goes on the upper side. So this is proportional error shown by the red line between the two curves. The lower curve, the normal, that should be the ideal calibration curve, and the upper, what is the actual calibration curve we got. And this red line shows the differences which estimates the proportional error. So more on the higher range, more is the difference. So factors affecting systemic error caused by interfering substances that gives a false signal, maybe positive or negative. Factors affecting incorrect assignment of substance in calibrator, side reactions of the analyte. These are factors affecting. So type of error itself provide a clue to the source of error. Causes of random error are lack of reproducibility in the pipetting of samples, dissolving of reagent tablets and mixing of sample and reagent, lack of stability of temperature, baths, timing regulation, photometric and other sensor. Appropriate steps should be taken to solve this. So these are the lists which are related to the systematic. Now the final control plot, which is known as the twin plot or Uden plot. This was named after the scientist W.J. Uden. Two different control materials are analyzed. In the x-axis level 1 QC, in the y-axis level 2. And this 45-degree axis monitors the control performance. So if you get any point here, the circle as it is shown, so it is constant error. That means you are getting the points lie on the 45-degree points, but there are some sources of error. And if you get the point away from the 45-degree, this is proportional error. So this is types of error. Now I've given a small work for you. The laboratory runs QC for ALP. The value of level 2 QC of alkaphos is this 20 values I have given. Calculate the mean, standard deviation, SD, CV percentage, that is coefficient of variance, and plot the LJ. You have to plot the LJ, calculating the lab mean 1 SD, 2 SD, and you have to see whether any outlier is there. This is your work, homework you need to do and submit it. So quality is not a goal but a continuing process. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Thank you.